Hello.
How are you?
Hi there. Welcome to the Trapes and Global on Wheels podcast.
Thank you.
Where are you speaking to us from right now?
Uh,
Amu?
from Finland,
From
in a city called Tampere.
I see. Well, welcome and thank you for joining. I know it's a little bit later where you are, huh? What time is it over there?
It's 9:15 in the,
Oh, okay.
but it's okay. I'm on a holiday, so no problem.
Oh,
I
you're
don't
on
have to wake.
holiday.
I don't have to wake up early. Besides, tomorrow it's Saturday, so no problem.
Yeah, that's right. Tomorrow's Saturday. So I'm going to read the bio that you sent
Yeah,
over so that
yeah,
people are a bit familiar with your background, okay? So Amu
right.
Urhonen is a disability activist and disability rights expert based in Tampere. Is that right, Amu?
Tampere,
Tampere.
Tampere. Mm,
Tampere,
yeah.
Finland. She has worked with disability rights since 1997 when she was 17 years old and joined a disability rights organization when she realized the importance of persons with disabilities working for their rights. Currently, she is working at FELM, which is a Finnish Evangelical Lutheran Mission, as a disability inclusion advisor and as a chairperson of Abilis. Is that how that's pronounced?
Well, we pronounce it Abilis.
Abilis. Okay, Abilis Foundation that provides funding for grassroots level organizations of persons with disabilities in developing countries. She is a member of ODIHR panel of politicians with disabilities. She has worked in research projects about disability history, disability activism, and political participation of persons with disabilities. In the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, she worked for IFRC, making sure disability inclusion would be considered in their COVID measures. What is IFRC,
uh,
Amu?
the, the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent.
Okay, thank you so much. So International Federation of Red Cross and what's
Red Crescent. Red Crescent, I mean the moon.
Red Cross and Crescent.
Yes.
I see. Okay, Amu is a theologist and sexual counselor who has also studied social sciences. I'm intrigued about that. I want to ask more about that later.
Yeah.
On her free time, Amu enjoys literature and traveling in Europe by train. So, by way of further elaborating on that bio that you just sent over, is there anything else you want to share and elaborate on to kick off our time
I
together?
think that I think that's accurate. That's accurate. I don't have anything to add. But if you have some question, of course, I'm happy to answer.
Of course, I was curious. Would you be okay with telling us a little bit about yourself? You know, this is a disability advocacy podcast
Yeah.
specifically for people with mobility disabilities. I myself have a mobility disability, which you may know I have polio and scoliosis. And so I use a manual wheelchair. I'm sitting in a regular chair right now, but my manual wheelchair is right over here to this side of me, and we're out here outside in the courtyard. So tell me, do you have a disability? And if you do, tell us if you feel comfortable, share with us what your disability is.
Yeah, I'm a wheelchair user. I don't walk.
Speaking of your disability advocacy work, I know you've done quite a bit of disability advocacy work over the years. What would you say is some of the more meaningful work that you have done, some of the more meaningful activism advocacy work?
Well, that's a tough question because I feel that because for me, activism is something that I am. I know that for some people it's something that they are, or something that they do. You know, it can be situational or it can be an identity. So I think it's a way of looking at things because for me, for example, like being really critical and um and making critical points about things I don't mean being, well, a lot of people interpret that as being negative, but I think I'm just being critical. So that's my no, that's how I see my activism. I mean, I want to point out um problems or when something is unfair. So it's something that I do like every day in social media. Even now that I'm on a holiday, I noticed that I have made like 10 posts online about accessibility issues or something like that. But well, Abilis is very meaningful for me. The foundation that you mentioned in my bio,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what activism. I actually it was started 25 years ago. Um, because we wanted to, or a group of persons with disabilities and some politicians, we felt that we wanted to support what persons with disability themselves are doing in developing countries. Because the problem was that persons with disabilities were always like objects of uh, aid, somebody else did things for them, and we didn't feel that was right, because in the end uh, that kind of help didn't really go down to the person with disabilities themselves. I mean, for example, we we would pay money for some employee who would to do things, and then the actual money would go to the employee who was doing something for a person with disability, and the money would go to salary of the non-disabled employee. So we found that that was a problem. So in a way, I feel um, that making Abilis work has been really, really important activism. Um, I also feel that writing, because well, I'm kind of a writer. I like to write and I like to analyze things, but I also feel that if I write something, there's something uh, that can be get back to, people can go back to that, and that will have a longer term event. But also, I have given speeches that have felt really meaningful about disability rights when the occasion is meaningful, and when the people have actually felt that will really change something. Also, I think that that's a um, boring thing as lobbying the politicians is very important activism, because that way you can actually change you can have some effect on the legislation. And for me, being a politician, I have been a local politician here in my home city for 20 years. I also feel that that is a part of my activism, even if in a way, I separate activism and politics, but still, there are some elements that are the same, you know, in both things you try to change something. But yeah, that's a broad answer, because it's really difficult to pick one, as you can maybe understand.
Yeah, no, and you've done, like you say, you've been doing disability advocacy work since you were 17. So there's a lot to choose from, and there's a lot of different types of work you've done over the years as well. So anyways, so that next question is, what progress have you seen in your lifetime in the arena of disability justice for people with disabilities in your local region? So it could be in the city, in the town that you've been a politician, or in Finland in general.
Yeah, maybe I will go with the Finland. because this is a small country, really. I mean, well, not many people living here. It's a large country by area. But anyway, I guess I guess well, Finland ratified the Convention of the Rights of Persons with Disabilities a couple of years ago, like in 2016. That was progress, but it's actually now I'm critical again, but I have to point out that there is very little research done about disability rights and disability justice in Finland. So if I would like to give an answer that would be based on some evidence, that could be a little bit difficult. And many of the, or much of the progress that has happened when it comes to disability rights happened in 1980s and 1990s, when there was a member of the parliament who was a person with a disability, and he got some very important laws through. So that happened before I became an activist, and but I can't really say that recently the progress would have been very strong or very rapid. You know, I guess accessibility has improved in some cities, some ways, but not in every city, and not and especially not in a level of legislation like in other country, like in many other countries. So and but what is maybe the biggest progress has been done in the foreign politics of Finnish government, because they have started to support projects of persons with disabilities and disability inclusion in foreign politics. That is a priority, and a lot of countries know that Finland is very good about that, and that Finland has emphasized rights of persons with disabilities in its foreign policy. So that's a good thing, I think, and that is something that can be proved actually. Of course, there is still much to be done about that as well. It's not perfect in any way, but yeah, when it was ratified, I mean, when the convention was ratified by Finland, I was hopeful, but apparently, the state understood it in a different way than I did, so it wasn't such a way to heaven as I thought. But yeah, no. Unfortunately, there hasn't been much of that progress. And in a way, you can also ask what is progress, because for me, progress would be equality, accessibility, independent living, person with disabilities going to work, you know, like paid work, I mean. But for some other person, but some other people who support another kind of disability politics, like a more medicalized maybe, then they could answer in a different manner. But yeah, the development in Finland haven't been very great from my perspective.
So it sounds like there's progress has been too slow and you are, you have more dreams about changes and you want to see more changes coming up.
Yeah, or as I said, the biggest progress happened in like 40 years ago or 35 years ago, and since then, there hasn't been much progress.
Yeah. What do you think, if you can elaborate a little further on that, what do you think that could be done to get out of that, state to create that change again that occurred 35 years ago?
Well, I think there are a couple of things. First of all, I think we will need to get persons with disability into political power, because because that's what's happening in some other country, like in Canada or Germany or whatever, and that has been a good thing. Right now, we don't have any politicians in the. I mean in the parliament or in the government, and we haven't had that in since 1990, maybe 1992. No, I'm not sure when that was, when it was the last time. But anyway, and then, mm, well, like that we could create better legislation, and I think something that could be useful to do would be to to create measurements for because now that we have ratified uh, the convention, there should be some kind of checkpoints. We would make goals like, okay, this is what we are going to do about this, and then we could have checkpoints how that has gone, and we will need more political ambition to this. So yeah, there are many things that should be done, and I know it will be possible to do them. Um, but that will take political will, I think, a lot of political will. Mm.
What do you think is the biggest obstacle right now that's, preventing people with disabilities from being more, immersed in politics, being more involved in politics in Finland?
Well, actually, we made a research about this a couple of years ago, where we interviewed parties, like political parties, and we interviewed the few politically active person with disabilities. It was difficult to find uh, people from all parties, because there are not many persons with disabilities who are involved in politics. I guess there are many obstacles, like accessibility. Uh, what we noticed was that often when people come, when they join a party, because a way to become politically active, it normally to become a member of a party or to be active in a party, because that's how the system in Finland works. Because if you want to be elected to the city council or to the parliament, you have to be a candidate, and it's the party that sets the candidates. So we noticed that there is still discrimination very much. The lack of accessibility, or the information is not accessible. The events and the action, what the meetings are inaccessible, and uh, stuff like that. Also, persons with disability, because persons with disabilities are maybe not considered as potential politicians, so nobody is asking them to join, to like hey, come here, come to our event or something like that. Nobody is encouraging that kind of behavior. So these kinds of things, this kind of effort should be made, like ending the discrimination and also hiring persons with disability in positions like officials and party staff members and everything like that. That would be important because often the people who get to work in politics, like full-time paid, they are they learn a lot from politics, and they become stronger candidates in the election, and then they can actually have the power, and they can also use the power because they know how it works. Yeah. So those are only a couple of things that we found in our research, and we also suggested that a good idea would be to have quotas, and to have to make sure that when candidates are chosen, there would be persons with disabilities always.
Yeah. So for someone that's like looking to get involved in politics right now, they're listening to this interview in Finland and they're like, oh, I want to be like Amu and making changes. I know progress is slow in our country in regards to disability advocacy, disability justice, etc. But I want to get involved and be on the side of a solution. What would you tell them? What are some tips that you wish you would have known when you first started your political journey?
Well, for me, this was never really an issue because I thought that I would like to change things, that I would like to improve accessibility and disability rights in Finland and globally. It was quite obvious for me because I knew that decisions like these are done in um, by politics. So I just joined the party and I chose the party and joined and went in and asked if they would accept me for a candidate. So I would just say welcome. I'm a member of the a party myself. So welcome, and but I know it's not always that simple for everybody, and I know that people might be uh shy. They might think that they don't have any um that they don't have they don't have relevant ideas, or that they will have needs that would be somehow too difficult to fulfill or something like that. So don't so a good idea is not to be shy, and a good idea is to talk. I mean, I have been very lucky because I have friends who are uh, uh, um I mean, because I have studied social sciences, and because I have friends who know a lot about disability politics as well. So I have been able to get information and develop my own ideas with other people. So maybe finding a friend who is also interested in the same things that could help, and that can be done, of course, by joining some political organization, because you find friends who are also interested in politics, in political organization.
Yeah, I think that does make things easier when there's a community. There's a group of people that's
Yeah.
like-minded, rather it be the mission or just the same kind of aspirations, right? In terms of being a politician. And And also there's the logistical challenges, right? So I worked in the United States Senate for a little bit, and being such an old building, that it's, even though we have the Americans with Disabilities Act implemented in the early 90s, but there are, even in the Capitol building, in the United States Capitol, there's still lots of infrastructural inaccessibilities. And so I'm sharing this to see if you could relate in terms of older buildings in Finland that just infrastructurally make it harder for, say, someone, a politician with a mobility disabilities such as yourself, just makes it that much more difficult to be involved, to get things done, even just on the physical side, on the physical infrastructure side.
Yes, yes. I envy your legislation. I know there are faults. I mean, Judith Newman was my friend. She loved Finland, so we had a really good connection. So I know that there are still problems there, but still I know that the situation in US, especially in Washington, is so much better than here in Finland, because our legislation for accessibility, and now I mean accessibility in a broad, very broad sense, in every sense really. The legislation is still really, or there is not much legislation, and though yeah, that makes also political participation very strong, very difficult. And a very interesting thing about this was that when we talked about this with the parties, they somehow they all agreed that yeah, we would like to get accessibility. We would like to improve accessibility. We would like to organize all of our events in accessible ways. And then when we ask them, like, why are you not using your political power to do that? Because you have the political power to do that. So we saw that in Finland, there seems to be an organizational part of the party and a political part of the party, and they don't interact with each other. So the politicians don't, they are not the same people who organize the events. So that's why they don't, that's why nothing is happening. So yeah, the Finland parliament was actually renovated a couple of years ago. Like there was a big renovation, and still you cannot access, after that huge renovation, you still cannot go to the podium to speak. So if I would be chosen to the parliament, if I would be elected there, I wouldn't be able to have my speeches in the podium just like everybody else. Or I couldn't be a chairperson there. So that is a really, so the situation in that sense is not very good in Finland. And as I said, the legislation about accessibility, the one that we have, but that is not very strong. We don't have sanctions or anything like that. That was done in 1980s, so it's very old also. So it should be updated and improved very much to make sure that it would be possible for persons with disabilities to join parties and go to political events and especially speak in them, because often you can get to the you can you can get to where the audience is. You can sit in the audience, and that's fine. But then if you will have to get on the stage, then that is not accessible. And I think that tells very much about how Finland sees persons with disabilities. They are not the people leading the meeting or giving speeches or being active, having active roles in politics. Yes.
Yeah, I think you're right. If some of those, physical infrastructural changes could improve, it would make it that much easier for people with disabilities, especially mobility disabilities like ourselves, want to be involved in politics and obviously make that easier, make that process easier. So speaking of Judy Human, you mentioned Judy Human, and obviously she's come on my podcast. I've met her a few times in person. She's an amazing, incredible advocate for not only those of us with disabilities in the US, but around the world. So my question regarding US is regarding US disability rights and disability rights in Finland. How do you think the policies here in the US, the progress here that we make in the US, how do you think it affects Finland?
Well, of course, Finland. Well, we just joined NATO, so that shows that we want to. We feel that we are that we want to work closely with US.
Yeah,
uh,
so
you
cover
know,
that in specifically in regards to disability rights,
yeah,
disability justice, right?
but yeah, I know, but I was coming to this that because we want to um because we want to work together. We want to show that we are in the same kind of group of countries that as United States, and United States really emphasizes the civil rights. I hope for a long time. So that's why they are interested in hearing. The Finnish politicians are interested in hearing about how disability rights are um, mm, um, assured, or they want to hear about this work that has been done in US, and we just actually organized an event about employment of persons with disabilities with the US embassy in Helsinki, the capital of Finland, and there were
Uh-huh.
very high level politicians from Finland. They were really interested to hear about the US model. So and they were also very interested to hear what they could what the guests from USA, what they thought about the Finnish politics. So I think that the pressure that is coming from US, or the kind of a encouragement from US, when they told about accessibility rights, and when they talked about uh, how work, like discrimination in in working life, had been tackled in United States, or about the legislation. The the Finnish politicians were very interested to hear that, and they were very concerned when they heard that the U.S. ambassador was not very pleased with the situation in Finland. So um, I think that U.S. is a big example, because many politicians in Finland really respect the US model. The problem is that they don't maybe know very much about the situation in Finland or in US. So they need to hear they need to learn more about both countries, because often disability rights are seen very marginal here in Finland, and that might be a problem.
Yeah. I definitely resonated with what you're saying, regardless if it's progress in Finland or progress in the United States. It is, especially if it's positive progress, it makes a huge difference for lives everywhere. And especially, obviously, the United States is such a powerhouse. If China or the US can make progress in human rights, especially disability rights, justice, it could really make a big giant ripple in the world. For smaller countries like Finland. Um, so anyways, as we conclude here, because we're about to time out, I
Yeah.
just wanted to tell you, thank you so much for coming on. I know it's super late over there in Finland, and thank you for staying up and giving your thoughtful responses. And I'm sure our listeners will really enjoy learning from you.